Just before we continue, I want to again welcome Minister Stephanie Cadu, the Minister of Children and Families, who has taken time out of her, I know, very, very busy schedule to participate in this celebration. Thanks so much for coming. I'd like to call Cheyenne Stonechild up again, please. As you heard earlier, Cheyenne is she is the co-chair of the Advisory Committee on Children's Rights, which is associated with the Children's Law Committee. And she was a member of the Youth Advisory Committee that you heard earlier. And now she's a champion for Aboriginal youth in care, with a particular focus on Aboriginal girls. Cheyenne, you spoke as part of the Aboriginal Youth Advisory Committee at the Continuing Legal Education of BC Access to Justice Conference back in May of 2015, to a standing ovation, I might add. And you'll recall, and some people in this room who were there will as well, that an audience member asked the group about the view held by some people that there should be an age limit for children's participation, often described as 12 or older. You answered, as did several others, all with the same message. I'm sure that this audience would be very interested in hearing your thoughts on that question as a former child in the care system, and what child participation means to you. Welcome.
Well, one thing I definitely want to say about it is that if you want to put a restriction on who can listen to a youth voice, or how old you have to, for how old a youth has to be or a child has to be to speak to a situation that involves them or around a decision that includes them, you're crazy. You always have to include children and youth voices in whatever you do, because if you're not going to take that, you're not exactly, you're missing a very human element there, right? You know, each child and each youth has a unique perspective that could very well contribute to a decision which could be life-changing for them. It's a lifelong thing. It could be. And you guys are involved with various types of children and youth every single day. And if you're not taking those voices and promoting them forward and putting them forward before you make a final decision, then you're not exactly going with the legislation of the Convention of the Rights of the Child. It's to include those voices. It's to empower them. It's to bring them forward and put them forward in front of all things. You know? You can't understand a person until you've walked in their shoes. We've all heard that saying, yes? Well, as you guys know, it's very complicated. Yes and no, but it's all a matter of perspective. Reaction, results, what's happening. I believe that a lot of the experience that children and youth have faced is very, very valuable and could be an extremely valuable co-mentorship opportunity for judges, lawyers, anyone of any leading profession anywhere in the world. And it could change so much if that was just brought forward a little more. And youth sometimes, or children, especially younger children, don't always understand what's happening. But if we took that step forward and, let them know, went down to their level and spoke to them, really spoke to them, reached out to them, we could be taking some powerful input and thoughts from that. That could definitely impact your decisions or anyone's decisions on anything, which is huge. And I know sometimes it's also from maybe a lack of experience of being around younger children or youth, or, you know, I know you guys studied, obviously, to be where you are now. Sometimes not always included in your education, but it damn well should be. You guys should all be engaged with your community. You guys should all be, especially around young children and youth, and just being with them, listening to them. And when I think about social workers and children and professors and students, there always should be that combining factor of learning from each other rather than there's just one way to go about it. I always think it says we really cannot lose track of who this legislation affects, which is, at the heart, is children and youth. We cannot forget that. And the choices and the end results made are very, very real and affect children. Children are so much stronger than we give them credit for. I don't know if you guys have any experience with being around children or youth. Do you guys, like, at all? Raise of hands. How many of them raise of hands, who thinks they're very, very strong? They are so strong. And they have such a power to them that is definitely different from what we could offer if our places were reversed. But I don't know how to keep telling you guys, it's just so valuable. When we're not listening to, or when we're giving the, hold on, how do I describe this? When youth are involved in a traumatic situation, one could describe that as there is a divorce case and there are parents that want one sole guardianship over the child, or however, sorry, I'm not probably saying that correctly, but that child is more often than not overlooked. That child could have something entirely different to say than the parents have to say. Which, you know, obviously that's decision changing, right? I would hope it would be, because of, you know, they might even say that they don't want to live with them. They want to be in somewhere entirely different. They want to be with their older cousin. They want to be with their aunt or their uncle. It's a very small example and a very poor one. That's the only one I can really make right now that makes sense to me when I'm speaking in front of a bunch of lawyers and judges and people in this profession. You know, I don't even know what to say. Like, it's just so important. It's just so important that we all take the first step to bring youth voices and children voices in with us when we're making decisions, especially around that affect them. Does anyone have any questions on that, or are we good? Okay. Thank you.